The first thing is to prepare the bait. The old wooden fish hooks is now amongst the things that wear, its place having been supplied by the civilized Birmingham brother, bartered by the Indians from the Hudson Bay Company. The fishing line is either made of native hemp or the inside bark of the cypress tree spun into cord. The bait is a long strip cut from the underside of a trout, at one end from which the point of the hook is inserted, the strip being then wound tightly and even around the hook, and up the line is about 3 inches. The silvery side undermost it is then firmly whipped over with white horsehair. A pebble slung on as a sinker, and the deception is complete. 5 or 6 long barbed spears are stowed away in the canoe, the line coiled carefully in the bow, and the baited hook laid on it. 2 wily Indians man this frail bark. The paddler squatting on his heels in the stern, the lineman standing in the bow. A few skillful turns of the paddle sends the canoe to the mudbank on which King Sturgeon is dozing and awaiting his maintain or vesper meal. The dainty-looking morsel, bearing all external semblance to a fish, but like the Trojan horse pregnant with mischief, stinks noisily and slowly to the bottom. The canoe drifts with the current, and in this manner the bait is towed along. It nears the sturgeon's nose, and being far too tempting to be refused, the great pendulous lips close upon it. But ere it reaches the gullet, a sharp twitch of the line buries the hook in the tenacious gristle. At once discovering he has been miserably done, anger and obstinate resistance are in ascendant. So he comes to the surface with a rush and a splash. The paddler now exerts all his skill to keep a slack line, for the hooked fish would otherwise inevitably upset the canoe. The bowman, with one line in one hand and a spear poised in the other, quietly bides his time. Then he hurls the spear into the sturgeon's armor-clad back. Down darts the dart fish, but soon returns to the surface when in goes another spear, and so on and again until, towed ashore, it is dragged out of the water with a powerful gaff hook. Large numbers besides such are thus speared and netted in passing through the narrow rock channels. On the Fraser River, sturgeon spearing is the most exciting sport imaginable. Hooking, playing, and landing a noble salmon is an achievement every fisherman is truly proud of. But I unhesitatingly assert that to spear and land a sturgeon, 500 or 600 pounds in weight, with only a frail canoe which the slightest inequality of balance will upset in an instant, requires a degree of skill, courage, and determination that only a lifetime's practice can bestow. I have only said that Fraser has no falls below Fort Hope, but a great many stiff rapids. Below these rapids it widens into a long, slowly running shallows, generally speaking having large sand and gravel banks, bars the miners call them, and on these bars the Indians live during the fishing season. The time for fishing being generally soon after sunrise, 4 canoes each manned by 2 Indians usually start for sturgeon capture. The paddler who squats in the stern looks in the direction in which the canoe is to go, not as we sit in rowing, with our backs to the bow, but facing it. He is always chosen for his greater strength, tact, and dexterity with the paddle. For on his skill depends, in a great degree, the safety and success of the spearman. The spearman stands in the bow armed with a most formidable spear. The handle, from 70 to 80 feet long, is made of white pine wood. Fitted on the spear haft is a barbed point, in short, very much like a shuttlecock. Supposing each feather represented a piece of bone, thickly barbed, and very sharp at the end. This is so contrived that it can easily detach from the long handle by a sharp, dexterous jerk. To this barbed contrivance, a long line is made fast, which is carefully coiled away close to the spearman, like a harpoon line in a whaleboat. The 4 canoes, alike equipped, are paddled into the center of the stream, and side by side drift slowly with the current, each spearman carefully feeling along the bottom of the spear. Constant practice having taught the crafty Indians to know a surgeon's back when the spear comes in contact with it. The spearhead touches the doughty fish, a sharp plunge, and the Indian sends the notched point through armor and cartilage, deep into leather-like muscles. A skillful jerk frees the long handle from the barbed end, which remains inextricably fixed in the fish. The handle is thrown aside, the line seized, and the struggle begins. The first impulse is to resist this objectionable intrusion, so the angry sturgeon comes up to see what is all it means. This curiosity is generally repaid by having a second spear sent slap crashing into him. He then takes a header, seeking safety in flight, and the real excitement commences. With might and main, the bowman plies the paddles, and the spearman plays out the line. The canoe flying through this water, the slightest tangle, the least hitch, and over it goes. It becomes, in fact, a sheer trial of paddle versus fin. Twist and turn as the sturgeon may, all the canoes are with him. He flings himself out of the water, dashes through it, under it, and skims along the surface. But all is vain. The canoes and the dusky oarsmen follow all his efforts to escape as a cat follows a mouse. Gradually, the sturgeon grows sulky and tired, obstinately floating on the surface. The Indian knows he is not vanquished, but only biding a chance for revenge. So he shortens up the line and gathers quietly up upon him to get another spear in. It is done, and down viciously drives the sturgeon. The pain and weariness begins to tell. The struggle grows weaker and weaker, as life ebbs slowly away until the mighty armor-plated monarch of the river yields to a captive in the dusky native in his frail canoe. The clam. Amongst the edible shellfish found on the coasts of Vancouver Island and British Columbia, the great clam, as it there styled, or the otter shell of the conchologists, it is by far the most valuable. Clams are one of the staple articles of winter food on which all Indian tribes in a great measure depend who inhabit the northwest coast of America. The clam is to the Indians a sort of mollusk cereal that they gather and garner during the summer months, and an outline sketch of this giant bivalve's habits and style of living. How captured and what becomes of it after being made a prisoner may be interesting. Its habits and the uses to which is if not designed. It is, at least appropriately, being generally less known than its minute anatomy. Clams attain an immense size. I have measured shell 8 inches from the hinge to the edge of the valve. We use them as soap dishes at our headquarters at Vancouver Island. The clam has a very wide range and is thickly distributed along the mainland and Vancouver Island's coasts. His favorite haunts are the great sandbanks that run out sometimes over a mile from the shore. The rise and fall of the tide is from 30 to 40 feet, so that a low water immense flats or beaches consisting of mud and sand are laid bare. There is nothing poetical about the clam, and its habits are anything but clean, groveling in the mud and feeding on the vinous filth it can find. Appears to constitute the great pleasure of its life. The stomach is a kind of dust hole, into which anything and everything finds ready admission. Its powers of digestion must be something wonderful. I believe clams can sup on copper tacks and not suffer from nightmares. Spending the greater part of its time buried in about 2 feet deep, the long siphon reaching to the surface discovers its whereabouts as the ebbing tide leaves the maw. By continually squirting up all small jets of water, about 6 or 8 inches high, the sand flats dry out on marches. An army of Indian women has been with only a small bit of skin or cedar mat tied around the waist. The women tramp through the mud, a basket made from cedar roots in one hand and the other a bent stick about 4 feet long.